Hey everyone, it's Tony from the Handlebar Workshops, and today we're in the garage workshop. I'm making Christmas presents, and in this video I'm going to be making trivets. You know, things to put hot plates and pans on. Well, these expand in order to get bigger pots and plates on there. Just in case this is too big, we also got some smaller ones that do the same thing. And they nest one inside the other. So let's make like elves and start making these. Now I must say that this is not my design. I saw pictures of these on the internet, but I couldn't find any videos on how they were made. So hopefully this video will help others out there. So these are my prototypes, but they're not quite prototypes. They're almost good enough to give as a gift. Start out as nice little trivets, but they expand out. You can get something a little bigger, a broader base to put a pot on. So basically just three sub pieces that go together to make the final products. And they're real easy to put together. There. Alright, so you can tell they're prototypes because the first one I made has the walnut that goes up like this with the cherry down here. The other ones all have walnut like this with the cherry coming over the top. So this one's kind of the odd one out. I'm going to settle on one similar to these three here. So this sub-construct here, the sub-piece, is basically made of four pieces. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I glued these two together and then added these onto the ends. That's kind of difficult to do to get everything lined up. So now that I'm going to a much larger piece, I'm basically modeling it after this piece, but I'm actually just cutting it into here and doing half lap joints here. So what you'll end up having is a nice meat like that, where they come together nice and tight. You can see on this piece here that the part that sticks out here has to be like two widths long here, because it's got to be the width of this one and the width of this one here. So what I've got here is it's actually slightly longer, because I tried piecing everything together and you can kind of see the gaps I was coming up with. So by going a little longer here, I can put everything where it needs to go, glue everything down, and then trim off to what I need here. This side I didn't even bother putting an angle on, because I'm going to wait for that to tell me, I'm going to wait for the rest of the build to tell me exactly where I need to cut that off. Now I've only got the walnut ones done. Now I need to go cut the maple and the cherry. Again, using my prototypes, I found that I like this proportion pretty well. This is a 1/2 inch by a 1/2 inch. So the bigger ones I made 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch square. I'm going to use this piece here to line these up square with each other, and then use my square to strike a line just about halfway, because we're only going to be cutting out half of this here. My gauge here is set to 60 degrees, which is what all of these are cut at here. So put my knife in that knife line there, bring it up over here. On this one, I'm going all the way across. There it is, the mark there. I'm only coming down halfway. I have my marking gauge set up to exactly the halfway point of this 3/4 inch square here. So now I have a line that comes all the way up and around, down around here. I'm removing this piece right here so it matches this walnut piece here. So I've got a homemade miter box here, and it was fine for those smaller pieces that I made the prototypes with, but this is a little too tall. I could remake it, or I could just use this as my guide for my saw. You can see I cut right down to my line on both sides there. So now I got to cut down this line. I got to cut that side of the line because this is the side I want to take off. can kind of see I left a bit of my line here all the way around. I got really far away from my line on this side. So I'm going to do some chisel work and bring this down to where it belongs. One of the most important points I learned from the prototypes here is that this base needs to be the same all the way around. Well, I mean, it makes sense, right? It's an equilateral triangle. So when you're cutting these, you got to make sure that they're equal. So I've got this one marked with some tape that I'm going to use as my base and what I'm going to measure everything off of, this single stick right here. So I take the stick that I want to mark, I bring in my story stick here, and I line up these edges right in the center here. And with the edges lined up at the other end, I can mark this end right here. So now with the sticks lined up like this, you can see I want to cut out the top half here. So I'm going to take that away, bring in my square, bring it up to my knife, then I'm going to mark up here and bring it down a little bit. Just try and make it kind of down the halfway mark so that way I don't have to do too much sanding. And now we're going to want to cut this angle here, which is our 60-degree angle. So you can bring this in, gauge right up to it, just run our line across. Now I can take this and flip it around this way, bring my regular square back in, get the knife in that mark from the diagonal. Now again, I want to cut this part off here, so there's my scrap. So I'm just going to kind of come up here, make my mark right there. Now I can mark my center line. Now before I do any cutting, I'm going to mark my knife line here with the chisel. I'm going to kind of cut that knife line out there. Then I can put it in the vise. Then I can bring my gauge in here with my saw, line everything up. Make sure I'm up against this wall here because this is my cut, but waste is on the other side. Alright, so you can see I've cut down to my line there and on that side. Using my big Ryoba, I'm going to start with the cross cut first and then move to the rip. Just to get myself going, I'm going to start with the cross cut. Flip it over and go to the rip cut. Make sure I don't cut down too far down here. Okay. Alright, check again. Okay, I'm down to my line in the back here. So I'm going to angle this up a bit like this, about a 60-degree angle. You can see I almost hit my line on that side, and I was kind of far away on that side. That's what I've got chisels for. Now that I've got all of these pieces of wood cut and chiseled out to the lines, now I got to start thinking about these pieces of wood here, which are exactly half the thickness of the base piece. And this is also half the thickness here as well. So I'm going to use this to set up my rip fence here, or my with a rip blade. So now I need to finesse some of these joints here because I don't want a big line like that. I want it to be fairly tight. Much more like that. Alright, now is the fun part where we get to make all of this look like this. I've got cherry, maple, and walnut. So I'm going to start the cherry, start this way. cut little angles on the ends of these here, just so they could fit together a little bit nicer. I think we're good to go here. I can now take a knife and mark all my lines here so I get a nice tight joint here rather than having that gap right there like that. I found if you kind of put a finger in the center of each one and squeeze, that pretty much gets everything lined up nice. You can see the line on there now. So I've got my line here. I'm going to accentuate that with the chisel here. I can put it right in my little homemade miter box here. And there we go. I also got to trim that one too. And there we go, we have a finished piece. I just got to do all the other ones. It's going to be a while. Alright, to put these trivets together, I made myself a little pattern here out of some scrap plywood. So go this way, then you got to kind of get this under here like that. This will go on the bottom. So, and this will go on the bottom. And this one goes on the bottom, this way. This way. You push all these in, get everything nice and tight, and we're ready to glue up. Do one at a time. I'm just going to glue on here, not on this part. Okay, we're going to push everything. These two we're going to push this way, get tight that way, and put a clamp on it. Rotate it this way. These two pieces get pushed that way. Put a clamp on that. Rotate this way. Again, these two pieces get pushed this way. And I'll put a nice clamp on there. Now you can flip it over. You can see how nice and tight the same woods are to each other. Now just let it sit like that for now and move on to the next one. So now we're going to glue these pieces in, but you want to make sure you get some tape here in the joints, just in case you get a little squeeze out, you don't end up gluing these pieces together. Don't ask me how I know. Now when you're gluing, if you can, get a small screwdriver in there to kind of push it up this way. Then you can bring your clamp in, clamp it like that. You want to also make sure that you're tight up at the top here too, where these meet. You're also going to want to clamp these ends down here so that when the glue dries over here, they stay nice and flat. Now that we got 3 coats of finish on here, I like to buff it out and get rid of all the dust nibs. I like the paper towel that I use to put the finish on there. Put it on the concrete floor to dry because you don't want to start a fire. This will start a fire if you keep it all bunched up. So you lay it out on the concrete floor, let it dry. Then once it's dry, you just crumple it all up again. Then you can just run it over like this. It's not going to give you any sanding dust or anything, but it makes everything very smooth and feels real nice. I know some people like to use the brown paper bag crumpled up to do this, but you don't get those anywhere anymore. You get all plastic bags at the grocery store. You've got this just lying around literally on your ground. Might as well use it. So thank you for watching. Make sure to hit the subscribe and the like button down below. That helps the channel out. And I'll see you on the next one.